Welcome everyone to Canadian Victor here, and we are live on YouTube here. I apologize. I'm trying to find what I was looking for earlier. I made a mistake of deleting one of the first things I was going to. Oh, I got it back. Okay, never mind. I got it back. So, welcome to everybody on Canadian Victor Live. So, we're going to be getting our um, just getting back on track on like my goal for the year for this channel, and was to upload a video a day. And I know I have been out of commission for some time. I've been away from live streaming and uploading every day because life got in the way and a lot has been going on. But now that there is some time to restart what we have been working on and achieving, there has been some notable success with this channel. Thank you to all you who are subscribers and new subscribers to this channel. It's a great. Um, I'm thankful for everybody to come on and to watch my live streams and recap on what's going on in the different topics that I cover with football, American football, soccer, and basketball. You guys have been great support, and I appreciate everything. I appreciate everybody who watches my videos, of course. So that's great to see. I'm just really thankful for the opportunity to be able to have the just have a conversation with you guys about things. So let's just get into this live stream for today. So we're talking about football, soccer, football, not American football for today. And there's a couple of we're focusing specifically on the United States men's national team, not about the women's national team because they have something else going on entirely different. So in another live stream, I will cover the U.S. women's national team in another live stream. But for today, it was focusing specifically on the men's national team. So let's get into this here. We're talking about the men's national team. So it is we're like right near the end or right in the middle of August right now. Last month in July, the Gold Cup occurred, and the United States men's national team made it to the finals in the Gold Cup. So in this article here, taken from playingfor90.com, of course, as I always do, I'm linking the description of the articles of each of these articles in the description box below. And another thing I will be doing for each of my live streams, I'll make sure I have a timestamp for everything I'm discussing. So be aware of that. So I will make sure with each section of this live stream I'm covering, I'll make sure that I put a timestamp in so everybody can go back and rewatch things if once the live stream's over. So let's get into this. The Gold Cup shock no one saw coming may derail the U.S. men's national World Cup plans, and there's been some turbulence and disturbance going on with the U.S. men's national soccer team. Of course, we'll be getting into more of that in this live stream. But this is all kind of occurring with the Gold Cup and some of the things some of the drama. There's been some drama occurring with this team. So it says here, with 15 MLS players in rising tension, the U.S. faces Pharaoh's Guatemala in a make-or-break semifinal. Now, before I continue further, I did happen to watch Guatemala, and they're a pretty good soccer team. I'll just admit it. When I was at work, I was working a particular job, and there was an individual there who was from uh, one of the countries in Central America, and he was cheering for his country, Guatemala. And I think they were playing in one of the games. They were playing maybe El Salvador. I might be wrong, but they're playing in a qualifying match. I think they lost that match. I'm not sure, but I have to go back and check that. But I do remember they were playing a game and he was cheering for them to win, and I think they won. I'm not sure, but the Guatemalan team is pretty good. Let's just admit it. The United States, when you play soccer, and football, we're not exactly. That's kind of our Achilles heel for some. It is our Achilles heel, and soccer's played all over the world. Um, you know, the United States can, as far as the men's, there's just so many. It's just a really it's a really competitive. Um, it gets really competitive when we start playing soccer and the men's leagues, the women's. The women's national soccer team has been pretty successful. But with the men's national soccer team, there has been struggle and a lot of struggle with that. But it says here, let's just get into this article. It's written on July 1st, 2025 here. Um, Trying to move down. Oh man, my the website I'm using has frozen up. This is annoying. Um, so let's just move down. Let me just refresh this page because I'm always having this problem. So it says here the U.S. national men's soccer team is 2 wins away from its eighth World Cup title. But before thinking about that, there's Guatemala standing in the way, a team that wasn't supposed to make it this far and now has nothing to lose. The semifinal happens at Energizer Park, the home of St. Louis City SC, and it brings together two different very paths. One is rebuilding under constant pressure, the other is playing free with no weights on their shoulders. The U.S. didn't have a smooth ride to this stage. Even after winning all three Cup D matches, they had to get past Costa Rica in a penalty shootout in the quarterfinals. The match finished 2-2. Real Salt Lake Diego's Luna and Columbus Max Austin both scored on their international goals. Then came the penalties. New York City's FC's Matt Fleece made three key saves, and Damien Down converted the final shot to seal the deal 4-3 on penalties. The real result pushed the U.S. men's national team to its 17th Gold Cup semifinal in 18 tournaments. They're chasing their first title since 2021. Guatemala just pulled off one of the biggest results in their history. They held Canada to a 1-1 draw, then moved on with a 6-5 win on penalties. Former Salt Lake forward Rubio Rubin scored the equalizer with the header in the second half after Canada took the lead on the first half penalty from Jonathan David. Jose Morales hit the winning penalty. The surprise came in goal. Henderson Navarro stepped in for the injured Columbus goalkeeper Nicholas Hagan and delivered. Guatemala squad includes DC United defender Aaron Herrera and CF Montreal forward Olga Escobar. This is their first Gold Cup semifinal since 1996. Despite being ranked 106 in the FIFA World Rankings, they've ignored the odds and made the run. For the U.S., this tournament is more than just about the title. It's the last serious test before hosting the FIFA World Cup in 2026. Coach Mauricio Pochettino brought a squad with 15 MLS players. After a strong group stage, the team needed extra effort to get past Costa Rica. Some players are new to the national team environment. Many are playing their first World Cup. The average number of caps is just 16. They've been together for nearly a month now, starting from the friendlies in June. Is that in that window, the U.S. lost to Turkey and Switzerland, both strong UEFA teams. Those games have exposed gaps. This group is still developing, and the Gold Cup became the only chance for a real competitive experience. Before 2026. Now there's pressure. Getting knocked out would be disappointing, not because of Guatemala's ability, they've earned respect, but because of expectations around the U.S. team. History also plays a role. The U.S. and Guatemala have played 27 times. The Americans lead with 16 wins, 6 draws, and 5 losses. Their last Gold Cup meeting was back in 2007 when the U.S. won 1-0. It's been almost 10 years since they faced off in the World Cup qualifying series in 2016. No current teams were part of that. This is a new generation on both sides. For the U.S., it's a young group still finding its rhythm. For Guatemala, it's a chance to do something that wasn't expected from them. The U.S. arrived as a team that many believed would make it to the semifinals. That's been the case for 13 straight tournaments since 2000. But even with a less experienced roster, that expectation didn't change. Now that they're here, the real question is what this match means for the team's direction. Guatemala won't make it easy. They've broken through expectations and come in with confidence, not pressure. But them getting here is already a statement. For the U.S., it's about proving they're actually ready for what's ahead. So there we have it from this article right here, talking about the U.S. men's national team facing Guatemala in um, in the semifinal. Um, Now I'm just gonna look up real quick what was the result of that U.S. men's national team score total score against Guatemala. Guatemala. So the U.S. Um, beat Guatemala 2-1. So it's the U.S. men's national team punches ticket to Gold Cup final with a 2-1 win against Guatemala. Diego Luna tallied first career brace inside first 15 minutes. The U.S. men's national team utilized an early brace from Diego Luna to force to defeat Guatemala 2-1 in the 2025 Gold Cup final in front of a sellout crowd of 22,423 people at the Energizer Park. With the victory, USA advances to the record 13th CONCACAF Gold Cup final on Sunday. The team set to face the winner of Wednesday's semifinal between Mexico and Honduras. United States head coach Mauricio Pochettino emphasized matching Guatemala's energy early and its motivation to continue its underdog run after upsetting Canada in the quarterfinal. Pochettino kept the same starting lineup in the quarterfinal. That group inside Tyler Adams, who dealt with an injury at the beginning of the tournament, played in 4 of the United States' 5 Gold Cup games. Midfielder Luna set the tone early with a goal in the second and the fourth minute, counting from just outside the 6-yard box after the Guatemala keepers failed an initial attempt from Luca de la Torre. 11 minutes in, Luna found the back of the net again. The trio of Sebastian Berhalter, Patrick Egg, Gayaman, and Malik Tillman pounded a couple of short passes to build up the attack. Tillman then set a beautiful cross to a stooping Luna on the left side of the box. Luna crossed up the defender to create space and struck the ball into the lower corner of the 15th minute. USA held Guatemala off for most of the match until Olga Escobar scored in the 80th minute off a short pass. Before Matt Fleece inside. Ultimately, the Americans held Guatemala from finding the equalizer. Guatemala posed an intense opposition despite the U.S. gaining control early. It was a physical match that saw 30 total fouls and 6 yellow cards shown. Defender Chris Richards, Luna, De La Torre were all cautioned for the USA. Steven Robles, Oscar Santos saw yellow cards for Guatemala. Those Japanese created an attack in what the U.S. had previously seen before. Easily, outshot the U.S. The United States 20-12, coming off as an impressive 3-stage performance in Sunday's quarterfinal against Costa Rica. Fleece saw the utmost action of his 6 U.S. men national team appearances, recording a career high 4 saves. including a stop on Jose Morales deep into injury time, which kept the USA from a second straight shootout. Um, so, of course, the United States beat Guatemala 2-1. I'll be making sure I'm clipping this in the description box as well, so you guys can check it out. Now, there was some controversy that happened because the United States faced Mexico in the final match. Apparently, there was a handball called in the final match against the United States. Um, so this happened July 7th, 2025, last month. Um, Dukes' question asked, did a missed handball call cost the United States the CONCACAF Gold Cup title against Mexico? Not according to VAR. The United States lost to Mexico 2-1 in this matchup. In the second half of Sunday's final, Mexico defender Jorge Sanchez tackled the ball away from the United States defender Max Arnstein, but when he tried to get the ball back on his feet, he placed his hand on the ball in the penalty box. There's a picture right there. The U.S. emphatically called for a handball after consulting with the free video assistant, match official Mario Alberto Escobar Toca ruled that it was an incidental handball and therefore not a penalty in favor of the United States. In this incidental handball refers to a situation where the player's hand or arm unintentionally makes contact with the ball, but that the player deliberately handling the ball and making the body unnaturally bigger. If called, the U.S. would have an opportunity to take a commanding lead in a crucial point in the match. Instead, Mexico went on to score in the match winner in the 77th minute on a goal from Edison Alvarez that coincidentally also had to go to VAR. Mexico has now won back-to-back Gold Cup titles, while the U.S. lost its final competitive match against the 2026 before the 2026 FIFA World Cup is to be hosted by Canada, Mexico, and the United States. So, of course, there was some controversy that occurred with this touching the ball as he was falling. He was trying to hold himself, control his balance when he fell to make sure he doesn't fall. Obviously, that's the thing what happens in these matches. These matches are sometimes, you know, questionable. But there was some backlash with this. Um, According to Yahoo Sports, um, the United States head coach, men's national team head coach Pochettino, explodes over the handball controversy, and the referee, of course, denies. Um, so this was written the same day, March 7th. Um, the U.S. men's national team, Pochettino, explodes over handball controversy as ref denies penalty claim originally appeared on Avalon Sports. It's not always sunshine after it pours. Nothing describes this better than what went down during the Gold Cup finals between Mauricio Pochettino's U.S. men's national team and Mexico. The Star and Stripes suffered a heart-wrenching defeat with their rivals, picking up a 2-1 win to secure the silverware. However, the game could have witnessed a different outcome had the U.S. men's national team um, not been denied a crucial penalty. The 66th minute of the contest saw Mexico's Jorge Sanchez go down while hitting a ball across with his hands inside the box. However, match official Mario Alberto Escobar Toca felt the move was unintentional and kept the game moving, much to Pochettino's dismay. And Pochettino did not mince his words in the post-game press conference as he went in on the match official's controversial decision. Pochettino questioned the decision, claiming Mexico would have been awarded the penalty had the same incident happened on his side of the field. Pochettino stated, I don't want to quote unquote, I don't want to cry, I'm not going to cry. I wanted to tell the truth, and the truth was that if it happened in the opposite half, in the other box, for sure, it's a penalty because we cannot talk about the rules. We say it's a silly penalty. It's a silly penalty. Plenty of penalties are so silly. And he also said, quote, yes, the player with the was with the knee on the floor. He pushed his hand over the ball. It's not that the hand was on the floor and the ball touched. Okay, well the excuses are, but not. But that was penalty and maybe 2-1 for us, and maybe now we were celebrating the trophy. I think that is clear, and it's not about to cry. It's not about to complain. It's not about to put excuses into different things. While the loss is surely a tough pill to swallow for the U.S. men's national team, the team will have shown a good brand of soccer under the Argentine head coach. Fans certainly believe Pochettino is the right man to lead the team, and it will be interesting to see what's the next step for the Scarlet Stripes after a major blow to their plans. This story, so there we have it, guys. There's the explosion from Pochettino about the handball controversy that has occurred, um, with this loss to Mexico in the Gold Cup, as unfortunate as it is. Um, so there's Alexi Lalas, who is the United States men's national team legend. He believes that the U.S. men's national team can win the Gold Cup next year in 2026. Um, do I think that's going to happen? I don't know. I I mean, it's going to be a long road. It's going to be a long journey. The United States has to go through so many other teams, in order to get it to the final. If they could get to the final, that would be a miracle for that to happen. Obviously, for them to be able to get through all the stronger teams, um, that's kind of that's a tough one to call. But Alexi Lalas believes that he thinks that the United States men's national team is going to win the World Cup, um, next year. So, according to this article from the Mirror.com, this was just last month, June 16, 2025. Ever the optimist former U.S. men's national team defender turned analyst Alexi Lalas has stated his belief that a FIFA World Cup crown will head to his home country within his lifetime. With the 2026 World Cup set to be held in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada in under 12 months, the prospects of Mauricio Pochettino's U.S. men's national team are fresh in the minds of fans. As such, one fan sent in a question for Alex on the State of the Union podcast, asking whether or not he would be willing to bet an amount of money that mattered to you on the U.S. men's national team winning the Cup in his lifetime. 55-year-old Lalas estimated that hopefully he will be around for at least another 6 World Cups, including 2026. As such, his response was a definite yes. Lalas said, quote, I think it's in the next 20 years because I think we will see massive new investment in the game and American players. And raise my hand, I am totally optimistic when it comes to the U.S. team. When it comes to this U.S. team, in general, whether it's now or anytime else, maybe to a fault. But he also said, quote, um, I don't think that's at the expense of being honest to you or to myself. It's just not blind faith. It's not delusional. It's not Pollyanna or anything like that. I recognize the realities and challenges of doing something like that, and that history is against you. Considering only a handful of teams have actually done it. Um, and he continues, and like I said before, maybe it's something simply being American, if you will, and believing that we can do things that people say can't be done. So yes, that is my internally optimistic belief that yes, in my lifetime, I would bet whatever it is that the U.S. men's team would win the World Cup. So that's what he said, quote unquote. And the article continues, this comes hot off the heels of the U.S. men's national team's narrow um, CONCACAF Gold final loss to Mexico and Houston, having reached the final off the back of 5 consecutive wins in the competition. So far, under Pochettino, the U.S. men's national team has endured a rocky 10 months, going 10-0-6, including 2 devastating losses to Panama and Canada at the Nations League finals in March. Next up for the U.S. men's national team as preparations ramp up ahead of the World Cup are 4 friendlies against teams that have already qualified for the next summer's competition and are currently ranked within the top 25 in the world by FIFA, starting with South Korea on September 6th, followed by Japan 3 days later, and in October, as recently announced by U.S. Soccer, Argentina signed to face Ecuador on October 10th before facing Australia on October 14th. Previewing these games, Lalas began by describing South Korea and Japan as good, solid teams, noting how they consistently qualify for World Cups. As for Ecuador, which he said was on the rise, Lalas said, I think that's a good quality, competitive team to test the U.S. team against Australia, whatever, it's Australia. Um, these so also said, quote, these elite teams know, but these teams that I think this U.S. team goes in and says we're as good or better. And so from a Argentino perspective, it's can you live up to being as good or better, being a favorite, if you will, quote unquote. So there we have it from Alexi Lalas. Obviously, he believes what he believes, and there's nothing that can be done to change his mind, obviously, for that reason. So the U.S. has four friendlies that it's going to be facing. It's going to be facing South Korea. Then um, I can just go back to it. So going to be four friendlies. The United States will be facing South Korea, Japan, Guatemala, and then Australia. So four teams that the United States is going to be facing. Japan and South Korea are powerhouse teams. Obviously, they definitely have a lot that they Japan. When I last checked with in the World Cup, Japan almost made it into the finals or the semifinals. They go pretty far. South Korea also has the potential to go pretty far in the World Cup on the World Cup stage. I would say the same for Australia. Guatemala could also go pretty far. Costa Rica has always been a pretty solid team. The United States obviously is definitely competing in those areas. Mexico, of course, could definitely make it. There's just so many different avenues that come from here. Um, so just kind of going forward here, the U.S. men's legend, I think that's probably Alexi Lalas, calls out Argentino for a lack of commitment after Gold Cup mistakes. So there were some coaching mistakes that happened in this um, in the Gold Cup with Mexico and the United States. Alexi Lalas has pointed it out. So it says here, the U.S. men's legend calls out Argentino for a lack of commitment after Gold Cup mistakes that have appeared on in the game. Days after the U.S. men's national team lost to Mexico in the Gold Cup final, Mauricio Pochettino has continued to face backlash for his team's underperformance in a crucial game. Despite missing important players who played in Europe, the managers criticized his inability to compete in the final. Mexico defeated the United States men's national team 2-1, though men many believe the scoreline didn't accurately reflect the full story of the match. Former U.S. men's national team goalkeeper Kasey Keller had strong words about Pochettino about after the Gold Cup final. So Kasey Kelly has questioned Pochettino's commitment to the U.S. men's national team during the Gold Cup this summer. The U.S. men's national team had pressure to win the Gold Cup, even though their team on paper was not the strongest, as players opted to take the summer off. Um, Casey Kelly, Kasey Kelly, I'm sorry. Kasey Kelly's criticism involves the players chosen for the roster for the Gold Cup this summer. Um, Kasey Kelly was not a fan of how games were handled during the Gold Cup games this summer. His criticism comes from the U.S. men's national team taking leads during games and then suffering at the end of games against weaker opposition. Kasey Kelly says, quote, what I haven't seen from Pochettino is a full commitment to the national team. I haven't seen a full commitment to the players. I haven't seen a full commitment going and watching the matches and truly being the guy to find out all those questions. Kasey Kelly also questioned why there's a lack of communication between some players and Pochettino. Keller suggested that Pochettino is still used to being a club coach, not a national team coach. Casey Keller said, "You hear players get asked, have you spoken to Pochettino? No, he's never called me. I've not talked to him. I don't know where I stand. That's fine that you're a club coach because in a club, if someone doesn't buy into what you're saying, you just go buy someone else. But as a national team coach, you only have what you have, quote unquote. Pochettino has not had a good record against teams that are highly ranked in the FIFA international team rankings. The U.S. men's national team is currently ranked 16th. Since Pochettino's arrival, the U.S. men's national team has played 4 national teams in the top 30 of the FIFA World Rankings. These 4 teams were Mexico, who's 17th, Switzerland, who's 20th, Turkey, who's 27th, and Canada, who's 30th. The U.S. men's national team with Pochettino as head coach lost twice against Mexico, lost 2 friendlies against Turkey and Switzerland. The U.S. men's national team lost to Canada in the 2025 CONCACAF Nations League bronze final. So it's been pretty brutal for the U.S. men's national team. So against Mexico, that was a goal. They lost 0-2. Canada, they lost 1-2. Turkey 1-2. Switzerland destroyed them 4-0. I think that game was on Peacock. That game, that friendly match, Switzerland just destroyed them. And Mexico Gold Cup, that was just last month. That was July 6, 2025. Wow, that was quite. I mean, they have been on a losing streak, 5-game losing streak right there. That's just not good for And this guy, Casey Keller, definitely has his concerns with the U.S. winning, facing these other teams, and then with these 4 other upcoming matches against Japan, South Korea, facing the other world-ranked teams, it's going to be a rough ride for the United States coming out and playing those world-ranked teams. Not only that, there's definitely drama, occurring. This is what we're getting into the next part of the live stream here. This is the drama. This is where the drama comes in. This article is from Yahoo Sports .com. This was August 16th. Just what was it? That today is the 18th. That was literally that was on Saturday. August 16th, 2025. This article was written. Pulisic and Raya respond to the U.S. soccer icon's criticism. So I kind of have been paying attention to what's going on with the men's soccer team, and these guys, it's a struggle. It's not looking too good. The team, if they cannot get themselves together and work as a unit, I mean, the article said they've only been together for a month, and these are MLS players, and they're playing on the national team. They're not going to get very far in the World Cup. Let's just be honest with them about that. So let's just get into this here. They're really evil. Pulisic and Raya respond to the U.S. soccer icon's criticism that originally appeared, of course, at On Sports. The U.S. national team had dealt with a dramatic summer that involved former U.S. men's national team players and Christian Pulisic. The AC Milan star caused controversy when decided not to play in the Gold Cup. Now that is an article that actually I was thinking about. I wanted to actually talk more about that, but in this article, I'm going to address it. But Christian Pulisic did not play in the Gold Cup, and I think that's also a part of why the U.S. did not win against Mexico, because they didn't have a guy who could score, and unfortunately. So let's just continue this article. Former players questions Pulisic's commitment to the national team, and the player received a lot of criticism for his decision to rest instead of playing with the U.S. men's national team this summer. Not only has Pulisic responded more words towards former U.S. men's national team players, but he was also defended by teammate Tim Weah who had bold words towards icons of U.S. soccer. In the documentary, Kristen Pulisic, and Tim Weah expressed their thoughts towards the former U.S. men's national team's comments on current national team's performances. U.S. soccer icons shown in the documentary were Landon Donovan and Tim Howard, along with others like Herculez Gomez. Pulisic already addressed his thoughts on the criticism in the past, but Weah's words suggested that current players may share the same opinion. In episode 8 of the documentary, Pulisic clips of former U.S. men's national team expressed their disappointment with the current national team's performances. This comes after the U.S. men's national team lost against Panama in the semifinal of the 2025 CONCACAF Nations League. Criticism towards the U.S. men's national team increased with the team's loss against Canada in the third place in the Nations League, leaving a sour taste for Pulisic and Weah. Christian Pulisic said, quote, I'd say the most annoying thing, but for me, the biggest cop-out of all time is when, especially all pundits want to say, we didn't want it, we didn't have the heart, back in our day, we would fight and we would die on that field. Tim Weah gives Christian Pulisic a said, quote, unquote. Tim Weah gives his opinion on former U.S. men's national team players, criticizing them harshly and makes a bold take that is directly towards the critics. Weah says he respects the former U.S. men's national team, but reminds the fan base that the team before did not win anything. Tim Weah said, quote unquote, I think those guys are chasing checks, but to me, I just feel like they're really evil honestly, because they've been players and they know what it's like when you're getting bashed. Don't get me wrong, I respect all of them. They were players that I looked up to, but quite frankly, the guys before us didn't win anything either. Quote unquote. Um, so one player who has avoided controversy is Tyler Adams, who decided to play with the men's side, the U.S. men's national team at the Gold Cup. Adams has been the good guy in the U.S. men's national team, as he chose to represent the team despite playing a long season with Bournemouth. Adams avoids challenging the criticism from former players and accepts the criticism ahead of the 2026 World Cup. He believes that the former U.S. men's national team players are criticizing the players' quality. Tyler Adams said, quote, they're not judging the level of play and the quality that we have as individuals and players. It's the competitive nature, the heart, the bare minimum that you have to do. You have to run, you have to compete, you have to tackle. So I think it's a fair criticism, quote unquote. So there we have it, guys. I mean, the soccer icons are criticizing Pulisic and Weah for not getting involved. And so that's what we're seeing from these guys here. They want, they obviously they have their own opinion on things. But I'm gonna kind of go forward here. So Alexi Lalas now has commented on what Pulisic and Tim Weah have said, along with Kelly 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 Keller, sorry, Casey Keller. All these guys, they want these guys to compete. Christian Pulisic was obviously not available to play in the Gold Cup final against Panama. So, you know, that is a problem. And you got to have guys that are available to compete. And if you don't have a solid team, obviously there's going to be problems with, the team gelling together. These guys are still young. So Alexi Lalas has some words to say on Christian Pulisic's comment. Um, he says, Alexi Lalas, this is from themirror.com. Alexi Lalas hits back at the unlikable U.S. men's national team stars after Christian Pulisic's comments. So this article was written August 14th, 2025, so that was about last week. That was 4 days ago, just recently, last week. So because Christian Pulisic and Tim Weah have well and truly stoked the fire of debate as a divide between the U.S. men's national team of old and new appears well and truly at bouts, with Alexi Lalas taking to social media to call out the duo's blunt response to critics. Just move up here and go back down. Work with technology. Okay, I'm definitely trying to work with technology here. Okay, so he did that. In recent months, the current generation of U.S. men's national team stars, led by Mauricio Pochettino, has been under the microscope, attracting major criticism from the stars of old, including Landon Donovan, Tim Howard, Clint Dempsey, and Lalas, for what they have perceived as the lack of drive, competitiveness, and misplaced priorities. Let's also throw Casey Keller in there as well, who has also been critical of Constantino. So these sentiments came to the forefront following the U.S. men's national team's abysmal CONCACAF Nations League title defense in March, which saw them lose to both Panama and Canada before Pulisic and AC Milan teammate Yunus Musa were controversially opted out of summer call-ups for their Gold Cup run. So not only did Christian Pulisic just dip on the team, but Yunus Musa also opted out of the summer call-ups for the Gold Cup run. Continuing here, but while such criticism had died down as of late, with the U.S. men's national team having last played on July 6th, losing 2-1 to Mexico in the Gold Cup final, the flames of debate have been fanned by Pulisic and Weah after their comments calling out their critics were publicized in the Paramount Plus docu-series Pulisic said, quote unquote, I'd say the most annoying thing and for me the biggest cop out of all time is when, especially our pundits want to say they didn't want it, we didn't have to fight back in the day, we would fight and we would die on that field. After a clip of Donovan criticizing the U.S. men's national team that then played, Tim Weah recently completed a loan move to Olympique Marseille from Juventus to put more pointed response, saying, you see that the comment before in the other article, we said, quote unquote, I think those guys are chasing checks, and for me, I just feel like they're really evil, honestly, because they've been players, and they know what it's like when you're just getting bashed, and those are the same guys who will turn around and shake your hand and try to be friendly with you at the end of the day. So that is what Tim Weah has said. Tim Weah also said, quote, he went on to add how the U.S. men's national team predecessors didn't win anything either. He also said, quote, unquote, few things. Number one, they're evil, but you respect them. But Alexi Lalas has responded in part and said, few things. Number one, they're evil, but you respect them. Alexi Lalas wrote in response. Number two, Landon Donovan was on the best U.S. World Cup team in history. Number three, they'll bring your dad to a fight. Number four, this makes you look soft. The thing you're whining about is being criticized for. Number five, quick, well played. Fans quickly weighed into the conversation, with one labeling the current generation the most unlikable U.S. men's national team in my lifetime, to which Lalas responded, this is the real problem. Alexi Lalas said, quote unquote, read the room, were 300 days from a home World Cup, he added, and at a time when we should be excited or confident about what next summer can bring, instead of there's apathy and or concern about this U.S. men's national team. Learn lessons from the U.S. men's national team. America wants to like you, so let them. Alexi Lalas took the opportunity to fire back after one follower suggested the media covering the U.S. men's national team is made up of nothing but overly negative old guys. He said he had done his utmost to guard against anything being grumpy old man stereotype of an ex-player turned media. I've done okay. Alexi Lalas said, quote, also said, there's a balance between Homer curmudgeon. It takes time to calibrate. We have all had ego, hubris, and envy. I want the U.S. men's national team to succeed, but not at the expense of being honest. When asked about what your teams won during the U.S. men's national team career, Alexi Lawler simply said, "Hearts and minds." The U.S. men's national team is scheduled to return to action on September 6th when they host South Korea in the first two friendlies, with Japan taking on Continental's side 3 days later. So yeah, man, there's drama occurring. We're only about 300 days, almost a year, under a year left before the World Cup starts, and we already have drama occurring with the U.S. men's national team. Um, players talking about how let's just, I think I read somewhere that they, like, especially from those coming from Christian Pulisic's side, saying we got to rest, we got to take our time with things, and the older players are saying you got to play for your country, you got to be more aggressive with the ball. Obviously, there's both sides are right, right? You have both sides are right, and I think I covered that um, in my previous live streams. I think I covered last time that there was a concern for the health and safety of the players because we have hot summers here in the U.S. and a lot of players who were in the Club World Cup were struggling to deal with the humidity and the heat. Some of them collapsed in that area, and so obviously there's that. But adjustments can be made to make sure that that they can take care of their bodies and are well equipped to deal with the weather, but also to make sure that their bodies are able to perform and have healthy bodies to perform in a competitive you know game environment. Um, but let's just kind of like jump forward. I'm just kind of going over some of the drama that's going on with the U.S. men's national team. Obviously, we're not seeing this with the U.S. women's national team. It's a different type of drama occurring with the U.S. women's national team with certain players. And I'm not going to get into that. Like I said earlier, this is obviously a another live stream that we have to cover. Talking about the U.S. women's national team because the U.S. women's national team, they are world champions and they are Olympic gold medalists. Um, so there already is a standard there in place for the U.S. women's national team. Who they already have, they achieved success. They've won the U.S. They've won the World Cup what, three times, four times already. Um, they're already one of the best teams in the world. Um, and so, obviously, for the men to win the World Cup, that's going to take a lot of hard work, grit, and effort. Um, and obviously, for me, I'm just saying this. For me, I'm not seeing this with this with this squad here, unless they get themselves under control and are able to perform at a high level and be better than their competition. It's going to be a long road for the Stars and Stripes of the men's national team. And obviously, to do that, you have to win the people over. And let's face it, the United States is not known as a very popular place for soccer. It's not a very soccer-friendly country. That Mexico, Canada, those places are more popular. Soccer is life. Brazil, they got the best. They have the most World Cups out of any country in the world. They have won so many World Cups. So there's a lot of things that the U.S. has to do. People have to get behind the soccer team. You got to support the men's soccer team. Obviously, I know most people in the U.S. don't really think of soccer as a man's sport, but obviously we got to put some passion into it. We got to show support. We gotta love the sport. I know it's not going to be as popular as football or basketball, American football, basketball, but obviously, we got to show our pride as a country for the team. And now, right now, we're only a year away, but things are looking, I'm not gonna say drastic, but we cannot have this drama happening right now with this team. Obviously, and this squad, obviously it should be a time people come together. We don't need to have this drama occurring with with the men's national team. Not a year before, we're gonna be hosting the World Cup. Mexico is hosting it, but we're hosting the majority of the matches in the United States. We cannot be you know, fussing and fighting over things a year before things go on. Because if these things continue, obviously this is going to cause more, you know, we're not going to have a lot of chemistry. This is going to be a mess. We're going to have a big mess. Big, giant pile of mess. Um, that's just my thoughts on that. Obviously, if Lexi Lawless believes the U.S. men's national team is going to win the World Cup, we have many things to overcome before we need to actually think about winning the World Cup. These guys obviously need to start playing as a team first. We need to start playing as a team. You know, it has to happen. We got to put aside the differences and come together as a team first and foremost. And obviously that has to happen. So let's kind of go forward here. Um, I'm going to move forward. So we're talking about the FIFA Club World Cup in this section here. Trump kept the FIFA Club World Cup for himself, revealing champions Chelsea to lift a replica, which I think is the most absolutely ridiculous idea. Um, Obviously, the President of the United States keeps the Rio Trophy, um, and FIFA gave it to him. Let's just get into this. Um, so this was on July 14, 2025. Um, so it's just crazy. I'm just going to kind of move forward here. President Donald Trump revealed that FIFA officials gave him the Club World Cup trophy ahead of Chelsea's win in inaugural competition's final before the showpiece at MetLife Stadium, New Jersey. Trump told broadcaster DAZN that he was gifted the trophy and that it currently sits in the Oval Office. FIFA President Gianni Infantino visited the White House along with the trophy in March. They said, "Could you hold this trophy for a little while?" We put it in the Oval Office, Trump said. And then I said, that's what Trump said, quote unquote. And then I said, when you're going to pick up the trophy, he says, you're never going to pick it up. You can have it forever in the Oval Office. We're making a new one. And if they actually make a new one, so that is quite exciting. It's in the Oval Office right now. This meant that despite upsetting the odds with their triumph over European champions Paris Saint-Germain, Chelsea had to make do with the replica trophy. President Donald Trump stands on stage with Chelsea as they celebrate their World Cup victory. Uh, Trump quips he could write an executive order changing the name of soccer to football. They said they would call it football, but I guess we'll call it soccer, Trump said, referring to the nation's name throughout much of the world. The interviewer said, what if we make an executive order that we can only say football? I think we could do that, he added. I think I could do that. Trump confirmed that the original trophy is still sitting in the Oval Office, with champions Chelsea lifting a replica. Trump grabbed headlines throughout Sunday's final. He was jeered when he appeared on the nation's screens alongside First Lady Melania Trump again and again when he walked onto the pitch to present medals to the players, with Infantino, who confirmed last week that FIFA opened a new office in New York City's Trump Tower. More confusion was sparked online when the president remained with Chelsea's players on stage as they celebrated, already handed captain Reece James that trophy. After the match, players from the English Premier League admitted they didn't expect the president to stay with them. PA Media, Carl Palmer said, quote, I knew he was going to be here, but I didn't know he was going to be on the stand when he lifted the trophy. I was a bit confused, yes. He scored twice in the game. Uh, James, the captain of the team, told me that he was going to present the trophy, then exit the stage, and I thought he was going to exit the stage, but he wanted to stay. Obviously, what else? What else can be said? What else can be said? What else can I say? That the FIFA gifted the Rio Trophy to the president, and they gave Chelsea the they give Chelsea the backup run so they can hold on to it. So hopefully Chelsea will get a new trophy for themselves. And so I just I don't understand. FIFA gives the President of the United States the Club World Cup. And the whole thing about also, renaming the name of soccer, changing the sport from football to soccer, obviously, and signing an executive order for it. I just think we have more bigger problems. We have bigger problems in the U.S. to deal with than just changing the name of a sport to another name. Obviously, we have bigger problems to deal with, and that's what the president should focus on, obviously, for the sake of the nation. So I don't really care for the most part whether it's called soccer or football. I understand, but other parts of the world, we play football in other parts of the world, and in my channel, I even name it football, but I spell it differently. I don't call it soccer. I call it the actual name that is spelt football with the foot, FUTBOL. No, not the FOT. So there's a distinction between the American football and football. You know, so I know the distinction because I have it there. So um, I just think that United Office News, it's just kind of confusing to see with that thing. Um, but let's just kind of go forward here. Um, Going forward here, the FIFA is looking for volunteers. There's two articles on this. FIFA is looking for volunteers for the 2026 World Cup in Mexico, Canada, and there's also an additional one where they're looking for volunteers in Boston, Massachusetts, and Foxborough. I think that's where the Patriots Stadium is at. So FIFA is here from August 13th, 2025. FIFA seeks volunteers for the 2026 World Cup in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. So it says here, the 2026 FIFA World Cup is offering to fulfill the dreams of soccer fans. FIFA is searching for about 65,000 volunteers in the United States, Canada, and Mexico to help with the events. The World Cup matches will take place throughout the three countries in North America in 16 cities. Los Angeles will host 8 matches. I believe Los Angeles is also where the Olympics is also being held. So, yeah, Los Angeles, the country of the city of Los Angeles definitely has a lot of things going on its plate, with the Olympics and FIFA. So, Los Angeles is going to host 8 matches. There are several requirements to qualify as a volunteer. You need to be 18 years old, pass a background check, attend and complete volunteer team tryouts, and speak English. Although it is not a paid position, there are benefits that come with being a volunteer. You will receive an official FIFA World Cup 26 volunteer uniform, exclusive awards and recognition items, skills-based learning opportunities, and meals and refreshments during the trip. The application window is now open and will remain until September. So the application is open until September to apply to become a volunteer for FIFA for the 2026 World Cup. Um, so of course that's more national than localized one. In Boston, Massachusetts, focus on NBC Boston. Boston Host Committee launches a call for volunteers for FIFA World Cup. Of course, this is August 12th, 2025. The Boston Host Committee for the FIFA 20 World Cup 2026 announced the launch of its official call for volunteers on Monday morning, inviting residents in Massachusetts and across New England to apply to be a part of next year's big event. As one of 16 host cities across North America, Boston will welcome the World Cup to the greater Boston area of net. Sign up for 7 matches, including one quarter-final match game. The teams that will play here are scheduled to be announced later this year. Organizers said in a release that volunteers will play a crucial and critical role in delivering an unforgettable experience for those attending from across the globe. Boston is one of the most historic and influential cities in America, and hosting the FIFA World Cup will be another landmark moment for our city. That's from Mike Loynes, CEO, FIFA World Cup 26 Boston. We're thrilled to invite our community to be part of history and show the world the pride, passion, and spirit that define Boston. Anyone interested can go to Boston FWC26.com/volunteer to apply. Boston is scheduled to host 7 matches, including one quarterfinal game at Gillette Stadium. Games kick off on June 13, 2026 and run through July 9th, 2026. Quarterfinals. The dates for the matches in Foxborough so that's June 20th, June 13th, June 16th, June 19th, June 26th, June 29th, and July 9th, 2026. The final draw for the FIFA World Cup will take place later this year, and will determine which teams will compete in Boston as part of the group stage matches. Tickets will be released in several phases, with the first phase opening on Wednesday, September 10th. That's Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. Fans should visit FIFA.com/tickets to learn more about and register their event. So, Boston going to be hosting seven matches. Los Angeles hosting 8. These are two big name cities. Of course, they're popular. Obviously, they are the most well-known basketball teams in the world, the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Lakers, which also hold the most NBA championships, of course. Yeah, both at 17, 18 championships. So there's a lot that's Boston. Boston's pretty well known, so is Los Angeles. So kind of a fascinating point that they're having hosting most of these matches there. It's also a good spot to fly in, fly out. It's perfect. So we're going to be ending on this unfortunate note. I'm sorry for this, guys, but unfortunately, Mexico beat the United States again in the U16 matches. Mexico beat the U.S. in a soccer final 5-0. Absolutely just demolished and destroyed the United States in this matchup, 5-0. This is even worse in Switzerland beating the U.S. in a friendly, because Switzerland beat the U.S. in a friendly match, but in a final, oh, this is even bad. This is bad. Mexico keeps on winning soccer silverware over the United States, this time with a blowout win. Chile beat the U.S. 5-0 in Sunday's 2025 CONCACAF Boys Under-15 Championship for a second straight title in that competition. After all 5 Mexico's goals in the tournament's final, played in Aruba, Costa Rica, was scored by Mexican-American players. Juan Carlos Martinez Jr., who had 2 goals in the final and won the Best Player award, was born in California and plays for the LA Galaxy Academy. Mexico's 3 other goals in the final were scored by Paxton Ruffin, Woden, Florida, who plays in the youth ranks of Liga MX Club Monterrey. Davian Kimbrough plays for the Sacramento Republic FC. Lisandro Torres plays for the LAFC Academy. Kimbrough and Torres were both born in California. In 2023, Kimbrough signed with Sacramento as part of the USL Championship as a 13-year-old to become the U.S. youngest soccer professional. That's pretty impressive, I gotta say. That really is pretty impressive. Quite amazing how when kids are pushed to be successful, they can do anything. That is pretty impressive to become 13 years old to become the U.S. youngest soccer professional. According to ESPN, he was believed to have been the youngest professional in team sports in the major leagues in North America, including the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, and WNBA. Wow, that is impressive. It's been a banner for L3 soccer teams, especially in the men's senior side. Mexico won its first CONCACAF Nations title in March over Canada, snapping the U.S. men's national team's hold on that competition. Mexico then followed that by winning its its 10th CONCACAF Gold Cup in July with a 2-1 win over the U.S. national team. Along with the U15 title, Mexico also won the Under-20 CONCACAF title on August 5th. That was Mexico's 14th U20 crown and its first since the 2015 edition. The U.S. had won the three previous editions. So, the U.S. not only is Mexico not only is just surpassing, is winning at the Gold Cup World Tournament, but it's also winning at the U15 and U20. Um, yeah, I gotta say that yeah, we have a long way to go before if we think about if we're gonna think about winning the World Cup, the granddaddy of all the soccer titles. We have a long way to go, obviously. Definitely, Mexico and the U.S. are serving as co-hosts along with Canada for the FIFA 2026 World Cup, and it's a great time to see the rivalry and talent and the pitch between the two sides continue to grow for years to come. United States of America, if you want to win the World Cup, if you want to win the U15, the U20, the U18 CONCACAF World Cup, you gotta put the effort in to win this. You gotta win. Um, I mean, I know we have talent here in the U.S. We have talent, and I've covered that before. And I have a couple of things that there's an article I've been kind of looking at the talent that's coming up. We have the talent. We gotta, you know, how is it that the United States can struggle in soccer? I mean, obviously, most Americans, I'm listening, not most, but some Americans don't really care for soccer. We don't really care whether we win or lose. It's just a game to us. When it comes to basketball, hockey, when it comes to, especially basketball, and and hockey, football, soccer is not really considered as important. And I gotta say, obviously that's kind of disappointing in a way because we need to focus more of our attention on that as well if we want to be successful um, in that fashion. Obviously, everybody has their own opinion on these things. Um, but what else can I say, guys? Obviously, yeah, yeah. If we're gonna be successful, there has to be a turnaround, and we have to obviously train as hard as we can and get really good and be better than we have to be in order to be successful. We have the talent to compete on the world stage. Obviously, the other countries that have been playing soccer for a much longer time than the United States has. I mean, the United States has been playing soccer for a while. Um, I have to look at the history, but if I'm not mistaken, I think we started playing in maybe the 70s, 80s. Um, I did do maybe I did like brief history on that. Maybe I'll do that in the future for another live stream. But obviously, we are we have some success, but obviously we need to do more. There's more to be done. There's much more work to do, much more success to be made, and we got to keep pushing forward. And that's what I got to say about that, guys. But obviously, you know, it does it does sting a little bit, to see that, you to see this, to see the United States, lost 5-0 in Mexico. Obviously, they are Mexicans. Mexicans are definitely way unprepared so they bring their A game. You know, we from anything going from the youth league up to the pros. Um, obviously there has to be more, more that has to be done. I'm not saying we have to push. We got to push ourselves. We got to push ourselves as Americans. Um, so what I have to say about this in this live stream for today. I don't know what else to say, guys. I don't know what else to say. Obviously, let's see how things gonna go going forward, and I'm just gonna end this live stream for today. I'll see you guys in the next one. In the next one, I'm definitely gonna cover the situation going on with the women's national soccer team. And there's been some stuff going on there, and there's also some new talent that we have coming up that we could see potentially go into get into the women's national soccer team on that end. So obviously, we'll have to see what's going to happen on that end. Obviously, I'm going to keep an eye on what's going on with the men's soccer team. It's always something going on, and there's always news to cover. So I'll see you guys in the next live stream. Hope you guys enjoy your day. Enjoy the nice, beautiful day outside. It's a nice sunny day. See you in the next one. Have a good